Hello, I'm Katrina and today I'm going to talk you through some of the techniques that you're going to need to be able to make the Noughts and Crosses mittens. These are made using double-sided knitting, which is a technique you might not have come across before, so that's why I'll be showing you some of the techniques you're going to need. These mittens are fully reversible with inverted colours on the inside, so you can choose whether you want to have, well in my case, the blue on the outside and the white on the inside, or the other way around. Like so. You'll notice that the mittens have just a single rib around the base of the mitten, then we cast on to the double-sided, so that's the first technique I'll be showing you. I'll also be showing you how to increase for the thumb to make it the same on the inside and the outside. And finally, the last thing I'll be showing you is how to decrease for double-sided knitting and finally to cast off. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so here we are, and I'm assuming that if you're tackling a pair of mittens then you're quite comfortable with doing knit and purl stitches and also working on double pointed needles. So I've taken my knitting to the point where I've finished the rib and I'm ready to cast on my second colour. Now you'll notice the two colours I'm using are the dark blue and white, which are very different, and that makes it much easier because then it's really easy to tell which colour you're supposed to be using, because if you have two colours that are too similar, it might get a bit confusing and you might make a mistake in the pattern. So the way we're going to cast on our second colour is, first of all, we're just going to knit the first stitch as usual. And then after you've knitted that first stitch, bring that yarn to the front as if you were going to purl the next stitch and just hold it with your thumb. Take your second colour of yarn, now holding the tail end with your thumb, you're going to just make one stitch by doing the loop method, like so, putting it over and pulling it tight. Then take both of your pieces of yarn, not the tail end, the working end, and take them to the back, like so. Okay, now you can see on your needle you've got two stitches. Okay, we're now going to knit the next stitch. Now the next stitch is still blue in the pattern, so we just knit in the blue. I like to have my blue underneath and the white on the top and the back, and I'll explain why in a moment. We'll knit the next one in the blue, bring both pieces of yarn to the front. I'm going to make the next stitch in the white. Basically, whichever colour you knitted with, you're then going to make the stitch with the opposite colour. I'm going to make one. Okay, so now we've got another stitch. Take both pieces of yarn to the back. Knit the next one, this one's blue as well. Again, I like to keep my blue underneath. Knit your next stitch, bring both pieces of yarn to the front and make one stitch with the white. Okay, so now, as you'll notice in the pattern, we've got 3 blue stitches. So we've knitted our 3 blue and we've made 3 in the white. The next stitch on the pattern is a white one for the front. So we're going to have to knit this next stitch in white. So we knit it in white, and then, like I said before, you make this stitch with the opposite colour. So when you bring your 2 yarns to the front, we're going to make one with the blue. Okay. So now, because every other stitch is your front, so we've got blue, 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 white, and that's just like it says in the pattern. Okay, so then we're back to the next lot of the triangle. So the base triangle for the next one is another blue stitch. So we're back to knitting blue. Now the reason I'm using my blue yarn underneath, and so I've got to twist it there, is so that if you look at the back, you end up with a nice row of the white and the colours aren't twisted. It just means that when you've finished your mittens, if you want to turn them inside out, you'll be able to do that and have a nice cast on row without the colours being mixed up. I'll show you exactly what I mean on this one. See here, you've got the loops and it's all nice and uniform, and you can see here where I obviously made a mistake and it's not exactly the same. Now, it's not the end of the world if you do that, just if you're a bit of a perfectionist like me, then you might like to have them all exactly the same. Annoyingly, that's the only time I did it. All the others are the same all the way around. But as I say, it doesn't matter, so don't stress yourself out about it. Okay, so I'll just continue doing the base of that next blue triangle just to show you a little more. So knit the next stitch in the blue, yarn forward, make a stitch with the white, yarn to the back, knit with the blue, yarn forward, make one with the white, yarn to the back. Now this is the fourth stitch, so this is a knit with the white, yarn forward and make one with the blue. Okay, so now you can see we've got twice as many stitches on our needle as we did from the row before. You're going to carry on like that until you've done all of the stitches all the way around, and I'll be back to show you how we do the double-sided knitting itself. Alright, I've finished my cast on now, and I've managed to not twist any of the colours this time, so that's good. And now we're ready to do the first row of the double-sided knitting. If you look at the pattern, you see that this time we've just got one blue stitch and 3 white stitches. So our very first stitch that we're going to knit here is going to be in the white. So we're going to insert the needle, the yarns are at the back. And this time it doesn't really matter which way round your yarns are, you just need to try not to twist them. So knit one in the white. Now we're going to bring both yarns to the front again, and the next stitch we're going to purl. Now the reason we're purling the next stitch is because we want it to look knitted from the inside, so it's like doing the back row of plain stitching, so you need to do it as a purl from this side so that it looks like a knit stitch from the other side. So because I did the first knit stitch in white, we need to purl in the blue. We're just swapping colours. Take both yarns to the back. The next stitch is a blue stitch, so we knit with the blue. Then we bring both yarns to the front, purl the next stitch in the white. Okay, next stitch is white again. We take both yarns to the back, knit this next one with the white. Okay, bring both yarns to the front. Because that was knitted in white, we now need to purl in blue. And then the last one for this triangle is another knit white. Both yarns forward, purl in the blue. Now, as you can see, this is going to take much longer than just plain knitting or even doing it as intarsia, so you might be wondering why you want to go to all this effort to do a pair of mittens in double-sided. I think they've got several advantages because they're stretchier, because you've got double-sided knitting and not just the yarn across the back of your knitting. You've got much better stretch in the finished piece. Also means that if you wear them out on one side, you can patch it up, turn them inside out, and you've still got a perfectly usable pair of mittens that you don't have a patch on. And on the inside, because you've got the lovely second layer of knitting instead of just the pieces of yarn trailing across the back, it means that when you put your fingers into your mittens, you're not going to catch them. And you're not, if you're like me, I catch my rings on everything, my towels are shredded, things like that. So the inside of your mittens are still going to be nice and pristine because you're not catching them. So I hope that explains how to do your double-sided knitting and why it's a good thing to do for these mittens. I'll just do one more just to make sure you're completely happy with it. So we'll just carry on here. This is a knit white. I hope you can see it's not actually that hard, just a little bit time consuming, but it does give a very nice finished effect. Okay, knit blue this time. Once you've got the hang of it, it's really very easy. Okay, this time we're back to knit white. So we purl a blue. Knit a white. And purl a blue. So you can see the patterns beginning to develop. You can see the little triangles beginning to appear. So you carry on with that and just follow the colours in the pattern, making sure that whatever you do for the front side, you just do the opposite in a purl, the other colour for the back side. Alright, I hope that explains that, and I'll be back with my next video to show you how to do the increased stitches to make the thumb.